I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, the premier trends forecaster of the year. Two of his big overarching trends. He identifies many trends with the publication of the Trends Journal. He's the publisher of the Trends Journal. But two of the biggest ones he has are about war and economic calamity. They've been fermenting for a while. And of course, I have Gerald Celente on from the Trends Journal, the publisher of the Trends Journal. Gerald Celente, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Always great being on with you, Greg, and all that you do on USAWatchdog.com to inform people of what's going on around the world with all the different people you have on with the great perspectives. So thank you very much for having me on.
Well, you're one of them with the great perspective. And this is one of the things that just keeps, I repeat this, and many times I quote you, but it's such a good quote. When all else fails, they take you to war. And, the economy, even though we're hitting all-time highs, it looks like we'll get the economy in a minute, but it looks like with the downing of the U.S. downing a Syrian jet and also a drone, and Russia breaking off their coordination with us in Syria, Qatar being thrown out of the Arab League, tensions rising, with the Iranians coming to the Qatari help. We have an air base there. Wow, what a mess in the Middle East. Let's start with your war prediction. Where are we on the war cycle that you have been predicting?
It's the war against Iran. That's the way we see it heating up. We did a trend alert on it about a week and a half ago. The Iran war will be World War III. And probably the war to end all wars in a good part of civilization if it happens. These are the Persians, and they're not going anywhere. Tracking trends, Greg, is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. And you know me and your audience, I'm a political atheist. I don't take sides in anything. We call things the way we see them. You go back to the Trump campaign. That Iran deal was the worst deal we ever made. And then you start hearing guys like our defense secretary, Mad Dog Mattis. Go back to 2012. You want to know what's wrong with the world? 3 words: Iran, Iran, and Iran. Listen to our Secretary of State, Tillerson. Iran's the worst terror threat in the world. They support more terrorists than you hear from Trump. And now you mentioned Qatar. What happened with that? Well, the day after the president of Iran got elected, 70% of the people turned out, he congratulated them. This is a war between the Sunnis and the Shia that have been going on since the days of after Prophet Muhammad died, man. And when you put it all together, it's the cover of our previous edition to the Trends Journal, Crusades 2000. That's all we're talking about here. It's a crusades. It's a globalnomic system, as you well know, that we call our trend forecasting. Let's go to the bottom line. You have a country like Saudi Arabia. You want to talk about radicals, the Wahhabis, the people that they supported to overthrow Gaddafi, overthrow Assad. They're bombing Yemen into smithereens. That Trump sold the Saudis over $100 billion, $110 billion just this year in armaments, and they're slaughtering the Yemenis. Hey, guess what? Obama beat him. He sold them $115 billion. The biggest sale to Saudis ever in one shot. Now, it's globalnomic, as I'm saying. What else is going on in Saudi Arabia? Well, they got this new prince that's going to be the king. I guess a princess kissed a frog, and the frog became a prince, and the prince will become a king. What king? How about a gang? Can anybody call this what it is? Anyway, the gang over there, when you look at how much money they need to run their kingdom over there, they need oil prices, Greg, at $100 a barrel to break even. Remember, this is globalnomic. It's bigger than, oh, we don't like you because the Prophet Muhammad didn't do this, he did that. It's a lot bigger. It's about the bottom line. And the bottom line now, Iran, because of the sanctions deal, They're pumping out oil. There's a glut of oil on the market. 1 year ago, excuse me, 3 years ago, almost to the date, June 2014, a barrel of oil was selling at $115. Today, try 45. There is going to be economic turmoil throughout the Middle East. And as you said, you know what I always say, when all else fails, they take you to war. You're starting to see what's going on in Bahrain. You're starting to see what's going on with the war between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. It's going to blow into Saudi Arabia. It's out of control. And by the way, they announced that war under Obama out of Washington, D.C. in March of 2015. Out of our capital, they announced that war. So that's how tied in we're in. So when we're looking at the Middle East, it's really Iran. You mentioned the Americans shooting down the Syrian plane. They're knocking out Iranian drones. Iran is the bottom line in this. And then you go back to Israel. You remember Netanyahu a number of years ago at the UN with the bomb, the cartoon bomb, and that was Iran's nuclear bomb that was ready to explode at any time. So we see these tensions really building up. It's going to be Iran. If Iran and anybody goes to war, the Russians and the Chinese take the Iranian side, and Europe and the United States take the other side.
Ooh, and what do you think the timeline is for this coming down the pipe here? What do you think it is?
Well, it's interesting what's going on, because from the information that we're learning about, through our analysis and reading and research, there seems to be two wars going on, one with the Pentagon and one with the NSA, the White House. And the NSA is really ratcheting up and again, this is going back, and I call it what it is. You go back to the debates with Trump, and he said, we don't even know who these moderate rebels are. We never seen their faces. I talk to generals. They don't know who they are. And now, why did they bomb these Syrian troops and knock the Syrian jet out of the air? They were bombing our rebels.
Which is ISIS, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there is no. I mean, they come up with this thing about the Free Syrian Army, and
what a bunch of baloney! Yeah.
Come on. I mean, come on. The rebels. We call them what they are.
And
ISIS.
These are the people. These are the people that the United States, the Saudis, and others funded to overthrow Gaddafi and turn that whole area into a hellhole. And by the way, there's a great video, an audio actually on radio. China Today. It's going back to 2011. And I'm on with the Washington bureau chief of Al Jazeera, which is owned by Qatar. And this guy, talking in this very proper English language, with accent, keeps cutting me off over this hour. Every time I bring why we have to be in Libya and why we have to get rid of Gaddafi. Now, remember, this is on China Today, an hour show. We're in about the last 10 minutes. And I said to this guy, I about had enough of this. I said, every time I make a point, you cut me off. And then when I make the point, you go somewhere else. We have to go into Libya? Let me tell you, who are you to tell me as an American what I should do? You are talking really tough, man. Pack up your stuff, take your wife and your kids, and you go lead the charge in Qatar and send your money. This guy lost it at the end. You could Google it up. Gerald Celente, China Today, Al Jazeera. They're trying to get him off the air. The English accent was gone. It was all a bunch of crap. They're all leading us to war. You ask me what's going on. There's conflict going on between the Pentagon and the NSA. The NSA and the security, the CIA, they're pushing more of the war. The Pentagon doesn't want any more. The Pentagon knows they can't win. They haven't won in Iraq. They haven't won in Afghanistan. Oh, and you hear the numbers coming out of Afghanistan? 4,000 more troops. 5 days later, 5,000 more troops. Now, 20,000 more U.S. troops. And from Mad Dog Mattis, we're not winning in Afghanistan. Yeah, no kidding. It's only a 16-year war, the longest war in American history. And now, let's put this together. Globalnomic. Hey, what's going on in China? Oh, they're just buying up the whole world. What company did they buy today? The business of China is business. The business of America has become war. I'm a New Yorker. You go down to the city, it's a trip to Calcutta, man. There's more steel plates on the pavement than there is concrete. One street closed off after another. Try going over the Triborough Bridge. They got one lane now. You're coming in off the Bruckner Expressway for like 2 months. Traffic backed up everywhere. It's like, go into the subways, man. What a disgrace. This whole country's going down, and all these guys talk about, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. By their deeds you shall know them. Show me a victory, and then we could talk.
And I want to end this war segment here. So you think I mean, the way you laid it out, I mean, we are headed towards war. And I guess they'd have, of course, eastern Afghanistan and southwestern Afghanistan, I think it is, borders on Iran on their eastern side, correct? So then we have 20,000 troops on the other side of Iran. So, I mean, yeah. It's looking like, and then the Russians have broken off all this, their coordination with the United States and Syria. Woo! What could go wrong?
Talk about Russia.
Yeah.
How about all the troops on the Russian border?
Yeah,
that NATO and the United States have put. How about what just happened when the Russian Defense Secretary's jet was, threatened by a bunch of, quote, NATO jets around it? How about going back to the fact, as you well know when he's on your show, a contributor to the Trends Journal and a good friend of mine, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. He's been on your show many times.
Yep, he just is one of his recent things that bankers are running the world. Bankers are not doing a very good job, I'll tell you. The war cycle is heating up, in your opinion, correct?
Yes, so I want to go to Paul Craig Roberts.
Yes.
He was Reagan's Assistant Treasury Secretary.
Correct.
When we launched OccupyPeace.us from here, he was one of the speakers kicking it off. And he told a story. You could go to our website, trendsresearch.com. You get this video. There's nothing like it anywhere. Remember, he's there. He had the power to bring in the director of the CIA and question him under oath. And they did. And Craig Roberts with that Southern accent, he said, Reagan never wanted to win the Cold War. He only wanted to end it. And the neocons were trying to stop him. Do you know what the deal was? The Soviet Union would dissolve. They'd give back Eastern Germany to Germany, let go of everything else they had, and NATO would not increase any further than where it was. And Bill Clinton broke it. George Bush broke it, Jr., and Obama broke it. And now NATO's on the Russian border.
Let's move on to the economic front, because they are twin sisters of chaos coming down the pipe. And look no further. I've been harping on the Puerto Rican thing, how they were going under. It was a canary in the coal mine. Sure enough, now they're talking about dissolving the state of Illinois. Dissolving the state of Illinois. They're so broke. They're so far down the hole. It's absolutely, they're like a click above junk bond rating status, which means they really are junk bond. And that's just another dead canary on the floor of the coal mine. We have big financial problems coming in America. Let's talk about that. In your, especially coming up with your mid-year, your Globalnomic mid-year report that is out that people can get. We can't cover everything, so you'll have to go to Trends Journal and get the report. But just the overview of the economy with all this bond debt in Illinois, talking about dissolving the state.
All it will do is screw the people. That's all it will do. It's like they do with austerity measures in other countries. That means we're going to rob you of your pensions, your benefits. We're going to raise your taxes, and we're going to increase your retirement age till after you die. So what they do, they'll keep the Ponzi scheme going. This is what I've learned. When Trump won, and I've been on your show many years.
You predicted he'd win.
In the Trends Journal, we predicted he'd win.
A year out. Almost a year out.
And I changed my economic forecast when he won from a gloom to a boom. When this market started going up, I said, this is real. Oh, no. I said, it's real. Now we're going into 8 months of a boom on the markets. They're two different worlds, Greg. The people's lives could continue to decline, as we're seeing with the wage data, like Obama bragged, folks, I created 10 million jobs. Yep. 10 million jobs, according to the Harvard-Princeton study, 94% of temporary work. So you can see all of these collapses going on, but they'll keep the Ponzi scheme going the best they can, and that is what I've learned over the years. Again, tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. So people say, oh, Celente, you said this thing was going to collapse a long time ago. You're right, I did. Hey, I had no idea they were going to make up a thing called zero interest rate policy so the big guys could do all these merger and acquisitions and stock buybacks. I never heard of a thing called quantitative easing or bailouts to bail out their buddies. What I'm saying to you, whether it's the United States or China, which is really deep in debt, from $500 billion 20 years ago to $30 trillion today, with a GDP debt ratio of about almost 270%, they'll do what they need to keep it going. So we'll have a decline in the absence of a wild card. And that trump card's wild, man. In the absence of that, Greg, we see a 10% correction in the market. If there's terror strikes, war, or other wild cards, it's the crash you're talking about, because it's all being held up by lies and dirty deals for the very rich.
And that's the thing, that we didn't have in pre-World War II. We were coming out of a terrible depression, but we didn't have the criminality that we had before World War II. I mean, we could ramp up our industry, we could do things. But you're saying that the backdrop that we're facing now, with all these wild cards and war and all this fraud, I mean, it's just total fraud, the economy. You're saying that just anything could just knock you right out of the saddle. I mean, this thing, you could wake up one morning and oops.
It's over. It's over. And that's why, and again, I don't give financial advice, that's why gold, to me, is the ultimate safe haven asset. You take Bitcoins and the other cryptocurrencies. Why is their price going up? Well, Japan just made it, Japan just made it legal to use Bitcoin in all transactions. But what happened to really bring it up? It was the Chinese yuan that was going down in value. And the average Chinese person didn't want to lose their dough. They're the ones that really boosted the cryptocurrencies. And while cryptocurrencies can continue to grow, the government could stop it like that, because that's what happened in China. They started putting different restrictions on.
The Grassley has a bill in Congress that could curtail greatly. It hasn't passed yet, but that could greatly curtail cryptocurrencies, in particular Bitcoin, because they say it could be used for nefarious activities and money laundering and drug trafficking and things like that. Yeah,
the nefarious thing is they can't find the dough, so they could steal your money and call it taxation. That's what it is. But going back to that, that's one of the points. And the other one is, man, it's digital. It's in the air. I would rather have possession of gold. So that's, again, only speaking for myself. And you know the motto of the Trends Journal is think for yourself. So going back to the economy, now here's the difference of what happened in the previous other crashes. It was wild speculation. It was the subprime mortgages. It was the whole derivatives scam. It was all these other things going on, people buying homes that couldn't afford them. You don't have that going on right now. The speculation in the markets is very different. It's being done by the bigger groups. It's not your average person playing them anymore. So it's a different scenario this time. But when it comes down, it'll crash, and they all crash. It always does. The timing, nobody can tell. But absent, again, the wild card, we're definitely looking for a 10% correction in the markets because Trump has not come up with what he's promised so far. And that's tax breaks, infrastructure spending, and deregulation that's going to be beneficial in building an economy. And the jobs that are coming back are very small. So in the absence of those three elements, of 3.5, the jobs coming back, we see a 10% correction.
Gerald Celente, what would be what's your biggest fear right now? What's the one thing that you're watching that you say, boy, if this happens, I'm going to give you two fronts, in the war cycle and in the economy cycle. What's the biggest tip-off you're looking at the war side of the equation that you think, if this happens, oh, wow. And what's the biggest thing in the economic cycle? Let's start with war.
The war is, again, Iran. I don't think the United States and Russia and China are going to go after each other. And anything could happen. It could happen between Iran and Israel. It could happen anywhere. It's Saudi Arabia. It could be an explosion at the parliament that kills, the president or whatever. You saw it happen when they attacked the Iranian parliament.
So Iran is the pivot point. That's what you're watching.
That's the one we're watching. We've been on this now for a number of months. And on the economy, it could be one company. It could be the tech stocks crashing, that kind of thing, which we almost saw the fangs, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. You have a real hit on one of those stocks because, it's only about very few stocks are behind the increase of the market. And matter of fact, about 20% of the increase of the market had come from the energy sector. Because if you go back, a number of months ago, we saw oil going from the lows. Now, oil now, by the way, is at August lows. So we saw from August to basically May, the price of oil going up.
And you say they want to make it go up, and if they have to have a war and people die, it doesn't make any difference. They want oil to go up.
Right, but what I'm saying is one of the reasons the markets went up is these energy company stocks went up because their earnings started going up. So now those earnings are going to go down, man. There's no way. We are on record. I will go up against anybody. We do Trends in the News broadcasts each weekday night. We have called the prices of oil on the numbers going back 3 years ago. There's too much supply, not enough demand. End of story. The United States, Greg, in another year is going to be producing more per day in gas and oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia, the two largest suppliers. We become number one.
Wow.
We're exporting this stuff. That's right. So there's too much product out there.
So you're saying oil is your big pivot point. You're focused on oil because they don't want it to go down. They want it to go up.
They're going to try to talk it up, and the wars will bring it up. And the other one, of course, the tech stocks. They're way over. You're looking at Amazon running what? Its PE ratio of 200? And earnings that thin? What do you think they're buying up these companies for? They're doing it for free. They're making all this money on stocks.
Yeah.
You're buying them for free. Oh, that's the other thing. Oh, Amazon, they bought
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods, right? or that people call it whole paycheck, that when you go there.
Yeah.
And they're saying how it's going to affect Walmart and Kroger. It's not going to affect them at all. It's a whole different clientele. And it's only 3% of the market, of an $800 billion marketplace. But that's what I'm saying. It's going to be these mergers and acquisition activities. Here, look at the retail sector. Look who's losing.
Oh,
tons. The greedy ones like Macy's that started buying everybody up. But then you look at TJ Maxx, they're doing fine because they're playing to the audience, discount prices. So what we're saying is the two bigs are going to fail this time, and there won't be any bailing them out.
The two bigs, who are the two bigs to fail? Oh, the two bigs to fail are going to fail this time. That's right. Right. Yeah, that legislation in Congress is, if it's what they say it is, they're not going to bail people out this next time with the Dodd-Frank thing. They're not going to do that. And, you know, other people have said, don't be so sure the Fed's going to ride in to save everybody this next time. I don't think it's going to happen. Other people have said that. There
will be a revolution in this country if one penny goes to bail out the banks.
And you're saying they're not going to do a bailout this time. You're going to get, oh, you stupid, you lost your money. I mean, Warren Buffett should have been shamed into bankruptcy. He got him and Charlie Munger got a huge bailout. I pay more tax than my secretary. Yeah, but your secretary doesn't get $4 or $5 trillion in bailouts either, now does she?
I'll tell you, first of all, the tax rate for the very rich in this country under Eisenhower, 90%.
Whew.
Under Reagan, 70%. Under Obama, 39.5%. And Trump wants to bring it down to 35%. Now I'm going to tell you a Warren Buffett story. You know, I launched OccupyPeace.us. You could go and you could see it on there. Go to our website, Trends Research, and hit the Occupy Peace. I had Ralph Nader here, Cindy Sheehan. We closed down the streets, the most historic four corners in America, who's camped out in front of George Bush's ranch over there because his son was killed in Iraq.
That's right, Cindy Sheehan.
Dr. Robert Thurman, Uma Thurman's father, renowned Buddhist. Gary Null from New York City. After the meeting, I'm in my offices with Ralph Nader and Peter Buffett, Warren Buffett's son. Peter Buffett rents one of my buildings. I'm the landlord to the Buffetts. 1763 Dr. Jensen House. They have one of their foundations.
Okay.
Do you know how much they gave us Occupy Peace?
How much? How much?
Can you count to zero?
Oh, no. My gosh.
For me to pull that off, that was a six-figure event. I had to go into my retirement account to pay for that. They gave us not a penny.
Well, we support your Warren. We support you if Warren Buffett does not, Gerald Celente. You know, everybody, you're one of the favorite people. Actually, Gregory Manarino, one of my friends, last night I was helping me do some things. He says, "Hey, you know who you ought to have on?" I said, "Who?" He said, "Gerald Celente." I said, "He's going to be on the next guest." So, Gerald,
but I want to make the point, Greg, that it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, said Samuel Adams. And you're doing it, I'm doing it. We are that tireless minority. We believe in this Constitution, although they're robbing it from us. This could turn around. All you have to do is look at the election in France. Yeah, they elected a jerk, this Macron, who's like an Obama, but he started a party a year ago. The established parties were destroyed. We need a new way, and we the people can make it happen. Because if we don't, we deserve what we get.
Gerald Celente, the publisher of the Trends Journal, he has his mid-year globalnomic report out. He just touched a few things. Huge amount of research and trends and predictions and things that they are spotting at Trends Research with the Trends Journal. Gerald Celente, thank you so much for joining us. For you YouTubers out there, I'll put all the links into usawatchdog.com after the interview section, and you can go to the Trends Journal. There's some free stuff on there, and also you can become a member. There's all kinds of different different levels and different lengths of time to be a member. Gerald Celente, the publisher of the Trends Journal, thanks for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us here on USAWatchdog.com.
And thank you so much for having me on USAWatchdog.com and for all that you do, Greg.